You do not want to be stranded on this island. In June 2008, 5 tourists would be diving off Bali's coast. They're looking at the beautiful ocean life that Bali had to offer. Fish, corals, rays, some sharks possibly, sea turtles, just an amazing variety of life and just amazing beautiful colors. But what they didn't realize is there would be a strong current that would slowly start to sweep them away from where they were. They would fight and just swim as hard as they could to try to get back to where their boat was, to get back to where they were originally at, but it was no use. It was slowly taking them out. So to conserve energy and make sure they all stayed together, they would tie their diving vests together while they're being swept away. These tourists would be drifting for about 9 to 12 hours in shark-infested water. Luckily, they were never bothered by any sharks, but they did realize there was an island up ahead that they could see, and they realized we had to make this one last-ditch effort to make it to this island because they didn't know how far they'd keep drifting and if they'd ever be found again. So they kind of said unanimously, we're going to use all of our strength and just go to this island. And they broke away from the current, luckily, and they made it onto this island, and they were so beyond thrilled that they were on land. But they didn't realize that their nightmare was just getting started. What these tourists didn't realize is the island that they landed on was called Rinca Island. And what Rinca Island is known for are these lizards right here, the Komodo dragon. It's one of 2 islands that they're known native to be on. These animals can grow up to 10 feet long, weighing over 300 pounds, and have been known to attack and eat people. So while these guys were on shore, there was one other animal that was smelling them and saying, could it be possibly food? And it was this guy right here, the Komodo dragon. So this lizard began going straight up to him, and you could imagine these tourists are freaking out because it kept trying to lunge towards their feet and trying to see if it could bite and see what was going on. So all they could do is take rocks that they found on the ground and start throwing it at this animal's head. They would even take their diving belt and one person would throw it at its head, and they said the Komodo dragon even took the diving belt and tried to swallow it to see if it was even food. Luckily it spit it out and it didn't actually swallow it, and these guys eventually were throwing enough rocks at this lizard's head that it was like, screw it, I'm not going to bother these people, and it went off. But these guys would say they got 0 sleep that night because they were all terrified that one of these animals would come back, and if they were sleeping, it could attack and take one of them. After that ordeal with the Komodo dragon, the next day, all they could do is try to just relax. They would try to see if they could see any ongoing boats that they could try to flag down. They also would survive by eating like mussels and such with clams along the shoreline just to have some food. They would say they would see a couple more Komodo dragons, but none would ever come close enough where they felt threatened, but they definitely were on edge. And luckily, about a day or 2 later, there would be a boat going by and they would flag it down and they would be brought on board, where they'd be taken to the local hospital where they all make full recoveries. There would be no one that have any significant injuries or damages, and they all lived to tell the tale, thankfully.